Hello everyone, Chocolo Roberto here, but not for a video review, it's for another tier list. Yes, so those of you regulars to the channel will know every couple of weeks I do basically a tier list via a website called Tier Maker. Those of you who don't know, what it is essentially is, well, it's where I pick a subject, usually sort of biscuit or chocolate related or something along those lines, snack related of some sort of thing. Yeah, and basically upload my own images and then proceed to rank them or tier them, yeah, using this website. So in this case, it's classic UK biscuits, so I'll come back onto that in a second to clarify what that means. But basically, as you can see, I've got a load of pictures at the bottom and some rows essentially, or tiers. And what I can do is I can just drag and drop the different images into each tier basically. So yeah, they go from S, A, B, C all the way down to D. So why is S at the top here, you ask? Common question and well warranted really. Well, it's a default on the website basically, and I think it comes from the fact that in computer games generally S rank is the rank to get generally. Yeah, I think that's because I think it's more sort of, I don't know if it was based around computer games at some point, but I mean that's the gist of it really, and it comes from sort of Japanese high school grading systems as well that they use. So S is kind of like the best rank. So you know, if you want to think of it as super or splendid or splendiferous or something like that, we can say right, splendiferous. There we go. Yes, you can think of it that way if you want. Super is probably the easiest, but that's not really what it stands for. It's just like sort of like an A star is above an A, but in this case it's an S. So it's, yeah, as I say, from Japanese high school grading, or I think it's Japanese high school grading. Well, I think it's high school grading. It's definitely from Japan. I think it's high school. So there we go. But that's the gist of it, and it's kind of spread into popular culture as far as this website's concerned, and computer games stuff like that, because obviously a lot of them are from Japan. So you know, Street Fighter stuff like this has S ranks and stuff like that. I particularly remember it in a game called Ikaruga, a shoot 'em up, particularly hard one. Yeah, so not I ever achieved S rank. But yeah, so there we go. So that's the gist of it. So what we're doing this week, as I say, classic UK biscuits basically. Now there are hundreds of biscuits in the UK, thousands in the world, maybe thousands in the UK, I'm not sure. But these are actual classic ones. So what do I mean by that? Well, really, I know a lot of, you know, you could say Borders dark chocolate gingers are a classic biscuit. I particularly like them. Could perhaps argue that, say, a lot of Fox's biscuits, butternut crunchies, things like this are classics as well. But I'm talking about the true classics here, the ones that, you know, really, yeah, just the basic true classics really, the old biscuits, or the older ones, the ones that I think really stand out as being sort of classic foundation sort of level biscuits, where basically these are the ones that are the foundation of UK society as far as biscuits are concerned, you could say. Or something along those lines anyway. So yes, we've got a group of them all here, 16 I think it is. Yes, 16 I think it is, yes. So we've got 16 biscuits here. So what I proceed to do is basically, yeah, tier them, and we'll see what's at the top and what's at the bottom, and what's in between. So this should be a premiere, so hello to everyone in the premiere. I should be in the chat myself, so I'm sure I'm saying hello to you all already, and I'm saying hello to myself now by saying hello to the chat. Hope you're all enjoying it. Great to see you all, I'm sure. I'm sure I've been partaking in a couple of conversations with you already, but I hope you're doing okay, hope you're having a lovely day, and I hope you'll have a nice time watching this tier list. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get cracking. Okay, so what we first need to do is we need to establish pretty much a benchmark. I do this every time, and as I say, these are fortnightly pretty much. They sort of intermingle with, or alternate between this and the look back videos I do. So I do those, basically these every Friday. Every second Friday will be a tier list. And the Fridays in between those will be a look back. Generally, might change of course, but for the moment that's the case. Yeah, so I'll put by the way, there will be a link in the top right corner. I think that's this corner up here. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, somewhere up here, somewhere. Probably now, maybe later. Of a playlist, a link to a playlist of all my other tier lists. So if you like this one, go check those out as well. Done plenty of them now. I don't know how many I've done, maybe 8 or 9, something like that. I'm not sure, but a fair few. Okay, so let's so I want to establish a benchmark here. So now I usually use Digestive's this one here as my benchmark for biscuits, but to be honest with you, I think biscuits have moved on a bit, and there's quite a lot nowadays. So I don't generally use Digestives as the benchmark. I mean, you could say these are classic biscuits. Maybe I should do. But I don't think I'm going to in this case. I feel like yeah, I feel like basically what I mean by benchmark as well is not just because it begins with B, but it will be like the B tier, the sort of the staple to say this is what the others are all going to be ranked against essentially. Now I used to sort of put Digestives straight down the middle. This is my sort of benchmark, sort of middle of the road average biscuit. But to be honest with you, I think, well, without giving spoilers away, I don't think it is that anymore. So I think for me, it's got to be one of the others really, and it's one that we'll base all the other tiers on essentially. So we'll say, well, is it better than this one? Stuff like that, you know. Yeah. So what I believe that to be, and there's plenty here. We got, as I say, we got quite a few different types of biscuit here. Some, you know, yeah, clearly some have got chocolate on, so you could argue some are more interesting than others. We'll come to that as we go through, of course. But I think for me, it's the Bourbon. I think this is our benchmark, to be honest with you. It's a classic biscuit, sort of chocolate biscuit with a sort of chocolate cream in the middle, basically. Love the biscuit, great with tea or coffee, good to dip in anything, great on its own. Remember when I used to have these when I was younger? We used to have a biscuit tin. It was like basically a biscuit tin, but it was a clear one. Remember, it's a clear biscuit tin perspex with a lid on it and all sorts. And I remember when I must have been about 3 or 4 or 5 or something. I used to basically open the top, get the Bourbons, take the top off, and basically eat the cream off it, and then put the top back on and put it back in the biscuit tin. And I remember like my mum or my brother will be finding them afterwards, saying, "Wow, who's done this?" And accusing me of it, and stuff like that. Of course, I probably denied all knowledge, but I think eventually they put the biscuit tin on top of the fridge, which was far too far for me to reach, basically, until I could manoeuvre the chair from the dining room to stand on to get to it, which took another year or 2, I think. But so eventually it wasn't good enough to keep me away from the biscuits. Although I don't think I did my usual trick of basically just eating the cream off them at them, but I think I ate the whole biscuit then. But there we go. So yes, as hinted at, it's I mentioned. I think I made mention actually. It's a chocolate biscuit with a sort of chocolate cream in the middle as well. Nice biscuit, really. It's pretty. It's balanced pretty well. I know I do talk sometimes of some biscuits or some items anyway that have a sort of 2 halves with a cream in the middle, usually having too much cake. If it's 2 bits of cake with a sort of centre or whatnot. Generally, cake actually seems to suffer from this problem. But yeah, this one's pretty well balanced. It's pretty nice actually, but it is a bit. I would say it is a sort of straight down the middle biscuit these days. It's not. I'm technically sort of basing this on modern day biscuits as well as to what's deemed a good biscuit, I think, and also as well as the ones that are in this list. I think a Bourbon is a good foundation because it's got a bit of, it's not a massive chocolate biscuit, but it's not a plain biscuit either. So I think it's a good one to have down the middle, and it is a nice biscuit. I think by today's standards, probably, as I say, a bit of an average biscuit really. So yeah. But a nice one, a B for sure, I think. Yeah, I do like it. As I say, really good to dip in hot drinks for sure. So yes, let's mix these up a bit. We've got a few, let's just say we don't want to. I think after this order I saved them in or whatever, but we'll just mix them up around a bit so it's a bit more random. Yeah. All right, let's have a look. So Nice biscuits next. Nice biscuits. So these ones are sort of a bit of a coconutty biscuit. I think I reviewed Family Circle biscuit selection not too long ago, and yeah, that one from memory didn't contain coconut. It wasn't on the ingredients list anyway, so I assume it didn't contain coconut. It was not the same, even though it was a Nice biscuit or nice biscuit, if you want to say nice. I'm sure it's Nice, but it could be nice. It could be both. Depends on what context. But but yeah, so yeah, this one, coconut. I've never been a big fan of coconut, but it does. But as I say, in this case, with my sort of modern outtake on it, it's not as bad actually. I prefer it than I used to. I just think back in the old days, I don't know, it just wasn't. I think I just dismissed coconut really. It's not a strong coconut though. It's not like it's got massive flakes. It's got a sugar dusting on it as well. It's just coconut inside the biscuit. It's quite a sweet one, quite a plain one. Again, a good dunker really. Good for a cup of tea probably. This one I think it's more of a cup of tea biscuit. Could be. Depends of course on your taste. Would go with coffee of course. Hot chocolates, but I think it's more of a tea biscuit. This one I would say. Nice one though. It is nice. Do like it. But as I say, probably. Nothing too great this one. You can see it's quite plain. It is one of these classic biscuits that's quite a plain one. In the old days you go around to your grandma's house and she'd probably have these biscuits basically. They're not really exciting. They're not ones not like the Bourbon where that's the one you'd want or other chocolate alternatives. They're the ones you'd be after. You'd end up with these Nice biscuits at your grandma's house. It's just one of those. Who knows why? I don't know if grandmas are still like that these days, but back in my day, maybe a generation before, maybe as well slightly. Grandmas, I don't know, you'd go around to the house and just to visit on Sundays and things, and it just wouldn't, I don't know, you'd always have Nice biscuits or, that was probably if you were lucky as well, which we'll come to a bit later on. Although there's no real horrible biscuits in this list, but we are obviously ranking them It doesn't necessarily mean that a D1 is terrible if it goes in the D rank. It just means compared to the others, it's lower down. But it probably does imply it's not the best. These biscuits, I don't think are too far up from a D rank, to be honest with you. They're not great. They're okay. They are plain biscuits, as I say. There's nothing really going on. They've got a dusting of sugar, I'd say a bit of cocoa. So they are quite sweet. I don't know if I'd say they're a D. It's going to be quite difficult, really, to, yeah. I think they're probably just about a C, these ones. They're not too bad. As I say, the biscuits, they're not the worst, but there's definitely ones you'd rather have. Definitely ones you'd rather have. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so yeah, we've got these party rings now. I don't know, yeah, party rings, did I call them something else before? Not sure now. Can't think what... ice rings, I think, something like that. Yeah, it's that kind of name, really. I think they're called party rings. You buy in some brands anyway. I think I call them ice rings. But they're generally, as I say, quite exciting to look at. They come in, some of them, there's a few different brands basically, but they generally sort of a sort of relatively plain biscuit, really. The biscuit's nothing to write home about. Obviously in a sort of circular shape like this, or with a hole in the middle, sort of flat donut shape. Yeah, US donuts anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, so, but obviously with icing on the top, and they're not too bad actually. They come in, there's different brands that do them, they're different colours as well. I think some of them probably not quite striking these days. I just realised I've skipped ahead a couple, haven't I? I don't know. Did I move it there? I think I moved it there, didn't I? Yeah. Well, we'll keep on with it. I've started now. But yeah, not too bad these. As I say, a plain biscuit, but quite nice. I'm sure I used to, did I dip these? Maybe not. Yeah, maybe another biscuit. I was going to say dip them in Coke, as in Diet Coke, or maybe not. I do it full fat Coke, but yeah, not too bad these ones. I think the excitement is purely from the icing on them, and they do look nice. They are a good one, really. I think they are. I wouldn't say they're sort of fabulous. You know what I mean? I think they are. It is a bit of smoke and mirrors. You can see, I say they've been drizzled with icing, and then obviously been. Like a toothpick, well, it'll be some contraption that does it, but if you did it at home, you'd have a toothpick to go through, make these waves type shapes. But they're generally not too bad. They're not too bad. Are they an A? I think they're definitely better than a C. They're definitely better than a Nice biscuit, I think. Are they better than a Bourbon? I'm not too sure. Could be a bit harsh on the Bourbon here, Could be that the Bourbon may not be the best. We'll see how it goes through. Just at the moment, I'm thinking, should I have rated the Bourbon too low? We'll see. We'll see. I think these ones are nice. Are they exciting enough to beat the Bourbon? Are they exciting enough to beat the Bourbon? I don't think they are. I think they are another B as well. They are nice though. They're interesting. Look nice. I just think they're not as. As a bit of smoke and mirrors. They're not as good as they look. They are just a regular biscuit, but they do have a bit of something about them. As I say, this icing it isn't bad. You know what I mean? But they're not as good as they look, basically. But they're still nice. They're still nice. Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. So I think all these biscuits we might see. As I say, some of them are quite plain, but they're different. You know what I mean? So that's the interesting thing about these biscuits. They're quite plain biscuits for the most part, but they are very different. Yeah, so I've got these sort of, what do you call them, Viennese whirls or just whirls? A bit like a shortbread biscuit, this one. Usually quite common in chocolate not chocolate selections, biscuit selections like a family circle. So they're quite a plain biscuit, bit of a shortbready type biscuit, not quite shortbread, but on the way there, basically. And a good one for dunking. Absorb quite well, actually, these ones. Go quite soft quite easily, but remain intact because they're quite thick. So a good dunker, these ones. As I say, I think these party rings are not, well, you could dunk them, but they're not really a dunkable biscuit generally. Everything's dunkable, of course, anything's possible, but not really ones for dunking, those ones. But these ones, good dunkers, these ones. I think probably more, I think they do work okay with tea and coffee. I think I would say they're probably more of a coffee biscuit, I think. But obviously, anything's possible, as I say. All these, of course, any biscuit as well, dunked in hot chocolate and stuff like this. But I think tea or coffee is generally the one I sort of talk about, because I think dunking something in hot chocolate, I mean, it's always going to be nice, isn't it? Pretty much, unless it's something that's just really not suited to it, as in like a carrot or something. But and even then, maybe it would be all right. But so I sort of tried to not really talk about that. I think there's a difference. I think some biscuits are better, as I said, I don't think you can go far wrong with dunking any kind of biscuit into hot chocolate. But I think as far as tea or coffee is concerned, I think there is a slight variance there. let's say I think this one does work with burrata, but I think it's more of a coffee biscuit. But nice. Nice. I don't think it's anything extravagant. I think it's not too dissimilar to the Nice biscuit, just on a different texture. The Nice biscuit's quite a sort of snappy, solid biscuit, quite flat as well. I might not have mentioned that before. This one's obviously thicker, rounder, but a bit more, probably a bit more porous, I think you'd say. It's a bit crumblier, a bit more short, you know. Assuming we've got the definition of short right, a bit more crumbly. Yeah. I think it's probably a C. I think it's probably a C. As I say, there are variants of this. You can get all sorts of these Viennese ones. Some of them are dipped in chocolate and stuff like that. Some of them have centres, you know, things like this. You can get sort of like a double one with a centre. And you can get all sorts, really. I'm just talking about the plain one here. You know, the original, basically, the classic. Yeah, it's a nice one. It's a nice one. It's just, you know, as I say, quite plain, but does the job. Good to dunk, as I say, in a coffee, I think. I think Nice is more of a tea biscuit, despite being called Nice place in France. They've been the big drinkers of tea in France, but don't know where he gets it. Well, you know, I don't know if it's an actual French biscuit or not. I'm not really sure what the origins are. Maybe someone in the comments or the chat will know. But yeah, there we go. All right, yeah, so you do see we've got the chocolate ones at the end, haven't we, there? So I think I might separate the chocolate ones out a bit just to... Okay, so now we've got Garibaldi's as well now. Now, they do have different names. I think, I don't know, Fruit Shorty or something like that. I've seen them being called. I think some brands call them, but I refer to them as Garibaldi's. They're basically a bit like a sort of, not too dissimilar to a Nice biscuit, maybe a bit sort of more... Yeah, no coconut in them or anything like that. It's of the same texture, same sort of crunch, same solidity, I would have said, sort of. But with sort of, I think it's raisins in them actually. I don't sort of, I think it's raisins in them. Some people call them dead fly biscuits, you know, because you can't quite tell from there, but well, you probably can a bit. They've got sort of, say, raisins in them. And no, as a kid, I didn't like these raisins. Anything fruity or nutty, still nutty, I'm still not a big fan of. But anything fruity when I was younger, stay well clear of. But I have had them in the past. I don't know if it's too long ago, really, well, you know, in my lifetime, probably about 10 years ago, 15. And I quite like them actually. They've got a nice dusting of sugar. They're quite sweet. The raisins aren't really that sort of prominent as such. You know, you can taste them, but they add a bit of sweetness to them. They're not really detrimental to it. As I say, I'm not a big fan of eating raisins generally, but they work okay in this. They give it a nice sort of texture, a bit of a nice softness, a chew to it. They actually work quite well. I actually don't mind them. They're not a bad biscuit actually. Another one. Probably a tea one, this one, I think. Probably a tea. I think I would dunk this in tea. I could do it in coffee. I think could. I mean, well, anything's possible. Like I say, you could dunk ones. I'm saying a tea biscuits in coffee, but I think it's probably more of a tea biscuit. This one myself. Yeah, I think it's mainly more down to the thickness, really, sort of, to an extent, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, but it can depend. It can depend. Yeah, these ones, the interesting ones. As I say, you know, if you like raisins and stuff like that, I don't think it's sultanas. It could be sultanas. I get them mixed up, but I'm quite sure it's raisins. They're quite a dark black colour, or at least to look at them anyway. Yeah, I think these are better than I gave them credit for when I was young. I don't think they're sort of top tier. They're not S rank by any means. But I don't mind them. I think there's just something about them. They've got a bit of a texture to them, a nice sweet taste. They are dusty with sugar, from what I remember. Quite a nice crunch to them as well. I think these are a good B. It could be these ones. I mean, they're not, you know, as I say, there are there are tiers within tiers here. I mean, obviously, these three aren't exactly the same, and these two aren't exactly the same. You know, the C's and the B's here. You know, you could say, oh well, you know, Bourbon's better than the party rings, or party rings better than Bourbon's, whatever. And this, that, and the other. But obviously, they still have to go in a certain tier. Yeah. So there we go. So now we've got the morning coffee. This was the one. I mean. Yeah, this one, I mean, as I say, if you went to your grand's house and you got a Nice biscuit, you were considered lucky, really. If you got a morning coffee, I think this is the one where this is a very plain biscuit. I mean, it's not terrible. I think I kind of prefer them than, you know, well, they're not, they're as plain as you can get. There is a taste of them. They have got sugar in them, you know, they are relatively sweeter things. Obviously, you know, morning coffee, yeah, I think it'd be hard pressed not to say these are aimed at dunking in coffee. You're quite a thin biscuit though. There's not much thicker than there was. Yeah, but I think it's more the texture of these ones. Lends themselves slightly more to coffee, you could say. I mean, as far as my unofficial rules are concerned, don't know. Hard to say. Yeah, maybe it's because you can see it's a bit darker as well. I think probably is more suitable for coffee, and it's come on coffee. If you look at it, you can't tell, but the pattern is a coffee cup on there as well. That's the stick for this one. It's a very plain biscuit. It's a very plain one. I mean, it's as plain as they come. You know, it really, it does have, you know, it's not like it's, you know, it does have a bit of a sweetness to it, but it is very plain. As I say, if you went to your grand's house and you got a niece biscuit, you were relatively lucky, because otherwise it was morning coffees, things like this, and they're just as plain as you can get. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's put it this way. You know, this is the worst on the list, I would say. It's not a terrible biscuit, but it's not one. I don't think anyone. I don't know. Would anyone ever buy this? Someone must. Some people must buy it. As I say, maybe it's just, I don't know, a different generation that buys them. Maybe I would certainly never. This would never be my biscuits of choice. I don't know who, unless you had a real. I don't know. I can't understand what circumstances you would buy this over almost any other biscuit on this list and external to this list. There's literally every other biscuit under the sun, I think, is preferable to this one. I don't think there's, you know, other than ones that literally taste horrendous for whatever reason. Say they're covered in, if you don't like Marmite, they're covered in Marmite or something. But you know, I'm not really aware of that biscuit, so and even then it might not be too bad. But yeah, well, who knows? I'm not sure. I'm not really a fan of Marmite, but there we go. But anyway, digressing. But yeah, this one, well, as you probably imagined, it's a D. You know, it's just really plain biscuit. It's not horrible. I don't think, you know, you'd be hard pushed to find a horrible biscuit, I think. But it's just got no real. There's nothing about it. It's not exciting. It has nothing like the niece biscuits dusted in sugar. It's got a bit of coconut in it. You know, these sort of whirls, they're quite sort of, you know, as I say, quite porous, shortbready, nice to dunk, you know, a bit thick. This one just doesn't really have any. It's as plain a biscuit as you can possibly get, really. Yeah, not for me, not for me. I don't, as I say, I can't understand a situation where you would ever willingly go for this biscuit. Unless there's literally nothing else available. You know, you get like those ration packs in, you know, in war films and stuff like this, where you have something really basic, dry and horrible. You know, yeah. I mean, well, the rich tea's not, well, not rich tea. The morning coffee's not as bad as that, but I don't know. You could see it being in that pack, basically. You know, as a real basic thing. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I mentioned the rich tea, the morning coffee. There is a rich tea coming up. We'll come to that later. Okay, so yes, the next one in Jammy Dodgers, yeah, the classic one, yes, yeah, raspberry basically, raspberry Jammy Dodgers, yeah, so basically it's like it's a shortbread biscuit with a jam layer in the middle and a heart shape cut out of it, and it's a bit like a bourbon, so it's got two layers basically, a top and the bottom. Interestingly, the inside of it actually has a design as well, which I always quite liked. You can never really see it. But the top of the bottom layer actually has a design to it, and it's quite interesting. Yeah, quite nice that it has a bit of that. You never see it unless you open it up. It's quite difficult to open sometimes because it's quite sticky because of the jam. Not like a runny jam, but it's quite a solid jam as well. But obviously, you do poke it, it will give a bit. But yeah, interesting one. These are a classic one. These ones. To be honest with you, though, for me, this is one like when I was saying the bourbon before. It's pretty well balanced between the cream and the two layers of biscuit. I don't think a Jammy Dodger is well balanced. This is my problem with the Jammy Dodger. It's not balanced enough. There's too much biscuit here. For me, there's just too much biscuit. It just tastes too dry. I'd prefer it if it just had only one half of the biscuit, and obviously, or some way of that being practical. I mean, obviously, because then it'd be sticky and stuff like this, you have the jam. But but there's just too much biscuit. That's my problem with Jammy Dodgers. So they are a classic. But there's just too much shortbread biscuit, really. Yeah, so they are quite nice. The shortbread's nice, but as I say, it's just too much of it. It's too dry. It's just too. The thing about it is the jam. The exciting part's the jam. But when that's taken away, when that's diminished, when that's as I say, sort of, what's the word? I think you'd say. When the shortbread sort of works against it because there's so much of it, it's a problem then, and they're just not very interesting at all as a result of that, because they're just a bit too biscuity. It just, whereas the taste is, at least I want more jam taste from it. I want more jam, and that's what I'm expecting from this. And the jam doesn't go to the edge either, because it's these biscuits don't go to the edge because they don't want it dripping out or whatever, and causing problems and stickiness and stuff like that, and also to save money presumably as well. So the problem is, as I say, it doesn't go to the edge. It's just not enough of it. Nice design and everything. I quite like the design. I quite like the sort of shape of the biscuit, and I quite like the taste, but it's just too much of it. So for me, I'm not as big a fan of these ones as I think a lot of people are, and as I thought I'd be really. You can get variants of them. There's ones, I think there's unofficial ones that have like a cream in as well as jam. Yeah, there's like an unofficial one. I think you get the family circle one as well, something like that. Or others have like a sort of, or used to anyway. I don't know if you still do. One with a smiley face, I think it was in it. But the one I used to get was like had a sugar dusting on the heart as well. I think it was always a bit too, yeah, I don't know, it was just a bit of a cheap knockoff Jammy Dodger, really, wasn't it? But it was still probably okay. I just always thought the Jammy Dodgers originals would be better, but to be honest with you, I'd say having had them, they are just too much biscuits. So I don't think the knockoffs were that bad, actually. But yeah, I don't know why I always had those as well. I never actually had proper Jammy Dodgers. I always had those Family Circle knockoff ones. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they look really nice, and they look like they'll taste really nice. But they just are too much biscuit, you know. Yeah, so I think for me, you know, it's you know, a lot of people might say they're an A, but for me they're not. They're more between a B and a C, I think, you know, really. Yeah, I think I'm going to say a C. You know, I'm just not that big a fan of them. They're just too, you know, there's just too much because there's so much biscuit and not enough jam. Or yeah, just too much biscuit. It just tastes quite similar to these in the end. You know what I mean? It's just too similar. You know, it's more about the biscuit than the jam, and it shouldn't be that way. Clearly, you know, might be in the minority. Or clearly, there's a classic recipe there. People do buy them. I think mainly probably because they look nice. I think they're just good ones to get. They look nice, and nice just to have one of. But yeah, don't know. Yeah, for me, yeah, just not. Yeah, they just don't quite. They just don't work for me. They just don't work for me, you know. And as a result of that, they are just more like a shortbread biscuit, really. So yeah. So I just realised there are two chocolate versions of different things here. So I'm going to move the chocolate ones away. I just think because, yeah, something like that. And move the shortbread one. Just because there's two chocolate versions of two biscuits. So obviously we'll do the chocolate ones after those. I think it's probably a better idea. So now we've got these pink wafers, yeah. I might have other names of them, pink something or others, but pink wafers is what I know them as. Very strange thing, this was another one that was in the Family Circle Classics range. Well, I think that anything that's in the Family Circle section is generally a classic biscuit. We did, as I say, did a review of them in one of the live reviews at one point a few months back. Odd one, this one. Basically, wafer that's coloured pink, like a sort of cream between a wafer. So it's quite nice, actually. They are quite nice. They're better than they look. I don't know why they're pink. It's just one of those weird things that's just happened at some point, and it's just I don't know where they came from. What if there's some story behind it? There might be, but yeah, very unusual, very distinct. And they're actually quite nice. Let's see, sort of like a nice wafer. You can see a lot of wafer bars as well. There's lots of Polish bars that are quite wafery with layers in them. They're pretty nice. Obviously, we've got things like Kit Kat and stuff like that replicate, sort of have that same concept really. And this is basically what they are. They're sort of like a Kit Kat without the chocolate in, to an extent, really. You know, obviously not exactly the same, but the gist of it's there. And they are pretty nice. The cream's nice. It's not really flavoured, I don't think, of anything particular. You know, you're not flavoured pink or anything. I think it is a pink colour. But there's not a rose flavour or whatever. It might be some kind of... I don't think there's a general flavour. It's just a cream. And it's nice. They're actually a lot nicer than you'd think. And you might not really go out to get them. But when you do have them, you think, oh, they're pretty good, actually. I'd fancy another one. And yeah, they're pretty good. I don't think they're the best things in the world ever, by any means. But... I think they are nice. I think they are nice. Now, where do they rank? I mean, it's a difficult one, this one, you know. Yeah, difficult. Are they better than a B? Are they better than a B? I mean, are they better than a B? Difficult. It's definitely... It's hard, this one. They're definitely at least a B. Are they really that nice to put them as an A? They're very close, I think. They're definitely closer than the others. I'm just trying to think what else would be an A on here. I think they're just about, you know, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Maybe controversial. I don't think they're really that far above the ones in the B tier, but I think they are just about, there's something about them. There's nice crunch, nice cream, but a lot of quite distinct flavours, and they taste pretty good. Tastes pretty good, yeah. You know, I don't know if... Hard to say if they're a dunkable one, though. The wafer gets really soft when you dunk them. And, you know, there's something in there that maybe not. maybe a quick dunk in a cup of tea. I think tea is probably more the dunker one, but they're not. I wouldn't say the massive dunkable ones. These ones, I don't think I'd give them a dunk. But if you're going to, I think tea would be the one to dunk them in. A brief dunk. But yeah, not too bad. As I say, they're not massively into the A, but they're definitely better. I think they're just better enough than the Bs. I think they're just quite interesting. Nice crunch, some nice crisp wafer, nice cream. Just a quite nice consistency really, and unique as well. And odd colour, very odd colour, but they work. Yeah, they work. Yeah, and Jammy Dodge as well. They're difficult to dunk those as well because you have the, I didn't mention about those dunkability of those, but they're not great dunkers because the biscuit, just the jam and the biscuit again doesn't really work together when dunked. Yeah, that's the problem. So yeah. Custard creams now, these are very much classic. Now these ones I used to think they were poor man's bourbon when I was younger, but to be honest with you, they're really nice actually. And I do have a friend who's loves custard creams, just loves them. Yeah, you know. So yeah, I mean, I was not. I don't love them as much, but they are very nice. They have sort of like a vanilla, well, basically a custard. It's like a vanilla cream centre, custard centre, I guess. Yeah, so a bit like a bourbon as well, as I say. Sometimes you can get bourbons in the same shape, size as a custard cream. You know, some companies do that, but this is, for me, this is the shape of a bourbon. This sort of like rectangular shape. Custard creams, yeah, but more of a, well, not quite a square, but just a bit more blocky. Have a very distinct design. I don't know if you can quite make it out there, but it's just sort of a diamond on lots of detail in there. Quite a nice design. They're quite nice, and these are really good for dunking. Actually, they are a good dunker. These ones, it just works really, softens the biscuit. The cream works really well when dunked. Possibly more of a coffee dunkage one. These ones are. You could work it both. I say anything's possible, but I think you know, I think what I would say is more of a coffee one. Really nice though, lovely to dunk. You know, I think there will be people who dunk them in tea. For me, I think probably more. Well, you know, yeah, both. They work for both, but I think for me more of a coffee one. But either way, very nice. I think these are actually pretty good. They're better than you did think as well. These ones, I think. I'll say when I was younger, lack of chocolate made them not exciting for me. When you're younger, anything chocolatey seems really good. But I think when you get older, you realise that chocolate, like the bourbon, for instance, you know, the actual chocolate flavour isn't that strong in the biscuits and things like this. And the same, I always say it with chocolate sponges as well, never quite as nice as vanilla sponges. And that's the thing with the custard cream. It's got this sort of nice vanilla-y taste, nice fresh taste to it. The cream's nice. Really good, actually. Now, is it good enough for an A? Again, it's a bit like pink wafers. It's probably, is it good enough for an A? Again, it's a high B. Yeah. Yeah, difficult one. I think it's one of those again, just about an A. Just about an A. I think it's a nice, refreshing, solid biscuit, really, and not solid as in the actual, literally solid, but just a description of it. You know, yeah, I think it's a good biscuit. It's a nice one. I say works well when dunked. It's got a nice fresh taste. I think it actually works a lot better than you'd think, and it's definitely one that I think grew on me a lot. When I was younger, I dismissed it. Always had the bourbons, but custard cream, really good and good to dunk as well. As I say, really good dunkable. Yeah, really good dunkable. Now then, we've got the Hobnob here. The Hobnob, yeah, like a bit like the Digestive, but an oaty one really, a bit more. Yeah, and Hobnob, fabulous biscuit, to be honest with you. Fabulous. No, there's no bells and whistles on this. There's no chocolate. It's just like an OT biscuit, but it's fabulous. I don't know what it is. It's just the texture. Lovely biscuit. Really nice. Really nice biscuit. Great to dunk as well. Coffee or tea, I think. You know, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, difficult one. I think sort of more biscuits with a substance. I tend to think maybe more of a coffee biscuit. If you get like a warm, quite a warm cup of tea, I think it's not bad. Sometimes tea can be a bit not as warm as coffee is just maybe that's why I'm sort of thinking some not quite as a bit more suitable for coffee. But depends how your tea is. My tea is not usually too warm, you know, with milk and things like this, and just having the brew state and stuff like that. But yeah. By which I mean the fact I've left it out to brew for a bit. But yes, Hobnobs, lovely biscuit, really nice oaty, lovely texture, great to dunk as well, really great to dunk. Wonderful biscuit. This definitely is very much in the A tier, almost an S, perhaps. You know, on another day, almost an S. Yeah. What do we say? Almost an S. Oh, you know. It's definitely higher on the A scale. These ones here, we could almost divide this A into two tiers, almost an A star and an A. And I think these two are definitely A's. I think the Hobnob is an A star for sure. Really nice, lovely biscuit. Just works really well. Just great biscuit. It looks plain, looks really plain and boring. But it's a great biscuit. It's just something about it. It just works with the OT taste. It gives it lots of texture. All the OT pieces and things. I know it's just got a great texture. It's great to dunk. It's really nice. There's no dustings of sugar or anything like that. There's just, it's just almost it's as plain as it looks, but it just works really well. It's just the recipe for it is just great. It's a great biscuit. Lovely biscuit. Really nice. Really nice. Yeah. A star. But now we've got the Digestive. So Digestive one, this is what I used to base all my biscuit reviews on really, and this was like a 3 out of 5. But to be honest with you, I think now the Digestive, I don't think it is the baseline for biscuits anymore. Yeah, it's just a bit too. Yeah, it's just a bit too plain these days. Good biscuit one, a good dunkable probably again in coffee, I think over tea. It's a bit of a solid biscuit, not a solid biscuit, but I guess it was named to help you because it was meant to help you digest food, I guess. Just guessing there, but it's quite a common biscuit. Lots of companies make it. Distinct design with the holes in and things. Just quite a plain biscuit. It's quite a plain biscuit. It's not as plain as the morning coffee. There's something about it, but I don't think it's as exciting. It's not as exciting as the bees really. So you can probably imagine where it's going to end up now. It's a solid biscuit, but it's nothing great about it. Unlike the Hobnob, it just doesn't have that oomph about it. I wouldn't specifically say particularly say the Hobnob's got like an X factor, but it's got something that most of these biscuits don't have, and the Digestive really doesn't have it. I don't know. It just doesn't have it. It's just the texture's not great. It works well as a cheesecake base and stuff like this. There's definitely a room in the world for a Digestive, but on this list, it's definitely nearer the bottom than the top. I think for me, it's a C. Back when I started the channel, I probably would have said it was a B really, and based the biscuits around the Digestive. But to be honest with you, yeah, I think for me, there's so many better biscuits than a Digestive. It's not really the middle one. It's definitely an okay biscuit. But again, if you went to your grand's house, if you got some Digestives, you'd be a relatively low. I mean, if you got bourbons or party wings at your grand's house, I mean, you'd be in cloud 9 really. It really would. But generally, you're talking these biscuits, morning coffees, and if you're lucky, some Digestives as well. Maybe the Nice biscuits might be slightly better than Digestive. But I think when I was younger, I think I preferred the Digestives just because they were a bit bigger. They were quite a big biscuit. But there's nothing. They have a good. I don't know. It sounds a bit disgusting, really, but they work quite well when you the process of eating them in your mouth. I'm not going into too much detail. It's not too bad with a Digestive, but but they're still not that exciting. Essentially, is the gist of it. So yeah, let's see. I think C is about right. Now I've got the rich tea. Now this one, yeah, you can see a tea. Rich tea. I mean, it is a tea biscuit for sure. It's quite a soft one. You can't dunk it for long, which I think again is why it's lends itself more to tea than coffee. In my experience anyway. Better than you think this one. I used to really, this was for me again, it's not one where you go into your grand's house and you didn't really want to see this biscuit, but actually, having had it, again recently, it's actually got quite a nice, sweet, subtle taste to it. It's not too bad. And it is made really for dunking in tea, and you can, that's definitely where it excels at really. It's not really, you can eat it on its own and it's not bad. But it is quite a plain biscuit, but it does. As I say, when you're younger, you're wanting all these bourbons, and Jemmy Dodgers and things. Even though I think Jemmy Dodgers probably a bit overrated. Party rings, you're probably a bit more. I think the Jemmy Dodger looks great. It's like chocolate. I was saying before, chocolate. It looks amazing, but really, there's not really the taste and the flavors aren't quite as good as just regular vanilla sponges. When you're a kid, obviously, you just want the chocolate, But yeah, Rich Teas, they're actually better than you'd think. I don't think they're going to blow your socks off though. They're definitely. There's definitely a place for them. They're definitely relatively high on the C tier, but I don't think. I don't know. Are they? It depends on the day. I think it depends if you've got a cup of tea. I think generally they're not going to blow your socks off. They're okay. They're basically a C tier really. They're in the C. Not the actual C, but in the C tier. They're nice. They're nice. They're just basically, there's something about them that's not too bad, and they're quite nice to have. But at the end of the day, they are still quite a plain biscuit. So you know, but they have got some perks. There's a bit of sweet taste. They do dunk well in tea, only for a short time. Don't overdunk it. They go very soft very quickly. But yeah. So there we go. So we've got the shortbread. Now we've got a bit of controversy here. It's almost like we probably could do with an extra tier for some of these. I mean, it's just a lot of them are middling around the B and the C ranks, really. Yeah, one of those. Now we've got the shortbread here. Now this is very much a very butter. It depends on the shortbread. Now you want decent shortbread. Probably, you know, there's different qualities of shortbread. Some of them are better than others. I think these sort of whirl ones here are sort of shortbread, but they're very much not a great shortbread, really. These ones here will be a nice buttery shortbread, crumbly, you know, probably with a dusting of sugar on as well. Great for dunking, actually. They're so thick, and you know, they're quite buttery, though, I'd say. You know, they are quite, if you get a good quality one, quite buttery. So they can be, you can almost taste the fat in them almost. You know, you've got the one of those, you probably have one sort of stick or finger of it is probably enough. Seems to be, it's quite synonymous of Scotland, I think. Scottish shortbread seems to be a thing. You know, that's not to say they're only made in Scotland, but it's definitely a thing you're seeing. Often at Christmas time, you get Scottish shortbread selections coming out and things. Often I'll say just different shapes and sizes of the same thing, really. I think for me, you know, they've not got an X factor. That's the thing with these ones. I mean, you know, I think well, it's hard to say. Only probably the Hobnobs have got something about them really that really stands out for me as some kind of just an oomph. But I think definitely, you know, there's minor oomphs I think available in some of these biscuits in the B and A rank. You know, not really a massive X factor, but something about them that just gives them a bit of an oomph, as I say. These ones don't have it. You know, if they were covered in chocolate, I've always think they need to be half covered in. You can get some that are half covered in chocolate, but generally they're not. And we're not talking about those here, because you know, there's loads of biscuits. You know, as I say, there's digestives that are covered in chocolate. There's hobnobs that are covered in chocolate. You know, there's double. You know what I mean? We're not. You know, we're keeping it to the classics really here, and they do need, as Savini's Worlds, there's ones double ones with stuff in the middle, and there's chocolate covered ones, and also, you know what I mean. So we're just keeping it, you know, at what they are here. It does need that sort of the classic recipes. It does need that. It does need something for me. It just needs a bit of an oomph to it, and it doesn't have it. But they are good for dunking. They're definitely good. It's definitely good for dunking. I just feel like, you know, they're not massively different. I just don't feel like they're massively different than the rest in the C tier. That's my thing. I don't know. Some people really like it. I remember a guy I used to work with really liked it, and it was his thing basically. He just really liked it and just really enjoyed it. I'm not like that. I don't mind it. I've tasted a few variants of it. I did about a buttery biscuit. The guy brought back from France. I don't know if it's shortbread, but it's quite a buttery one. That was quite nice, but definitely not quite a shortbread, but similar. Some French equivalents, I guess, or French variants, but it's not bad. I don't know. I don't feel like it's a B for me. I just don't feel like it's got anything. It's just missing something, even though it's quite not. They taste quite nice, but they're quite. I don't know. They just don't have. They don't taste too different. Don't give me the experience that's much different from like the Nice biscuits. The Digestive, even though they probably are nicer biscuits, they just don't give me. They don't give me anything more though, even though they do taste a bit nicer. And I wouldn't even say that saying, oh, these are like almost a B. They're not really. They're still on the same level as the others, I think. So for me, yeah, just a C. You know, a bit like the sort of the Jammy Georgia, really. Just too much. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's just too much of the same thing, and it needs more. You know. It needs more, really. I'll say like a chocolate covering or something. Yeah. So C, I think, is about right. Now we've got the ginger nuts. Yeah, ginger nuts. I remember dipping these in Coke. You know, never used full fat Coke, in Diet Coke. Could have been when I was younger anyway. I remember I used to dip biscuits in anything. I don't think I really used to have coffee or tea because I was young. So I think I used to just dunk them in Coke basically. So yeah, not sure. I remember dunking them in a cup of soup as well at one point. I think it wasn't too bad. Don't knock it till you tried it. But obviously, yeah, not something I do nowadays really. But yeah, the ginger nuts, basically a ginger biscuit. Now, Borders dark chocolate gingers aren't in this list because they're not a classic biscuit for me. I mean, they are a classic biscuit, but they're not classic as in sort of vintage, old school biscuits. Yeah, and they are really nice. The Borders dark chocolate gingers. There are other companies that make them. I just generally refer to them as Borders. That's the company that generally does them. But I've seen other ones, and they taste very similar actually. But it's just different variants. They are quite a soft biscuit. These ginger nuts are hard biscuits. They're not going to break your teeth, but they're very hard. They're a hard biscuit. Yeah, and that for me it could be a plus point because I say good for dunking. More of a coffee dunk, I think I'd say these ones, especially with the ginger flavour. I think if you got to like ginger as well. They are not a strong gingery taste, but there's definitely ginger in them. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a quality ginger product or whatever by any means. The dark chocolate gingers have a bit more of a sophisticated gingery taste to them. These ones are a bit more, I don't know, yeah, I'd say a bit more mainstream, I think you'd say. They're just a very hard biscuit for me, and that's my problem with them. Very plain and very hard. I think they're softer, like the dark chocolate gingers. I think without the chocolate, I think they'd be really nice, but they're just too hard. And there are ones where if you leave them out and they go soft, tends to be a bit more edible, really, in a strange way. Although you can tell they've obviously been left out. But they just seem, I don't know. You just think, well, I just wish it was a bit like this, but fresh, if you know what I mean. Let's say good for dunking. Good for dunking, but yeah, because of that, they hold up quite well when dunked in a hot drink. But yeah, they're just a bit too, they're just too hard, really. They're just too hard. And for that reason, I think it's another C. Yeah, another C. So got quite a few C's here. But yeah, I think that's probably quite natural. I think a lot of biscuits are quite plain and in their own way or another, or just don't quite, have something about them like an oomph, as I say. They are nice, but they're just too hard. They're just too hard, unfortunately for me. That's my problem with them. Yeah, so yeah, no shame. So I think a C is a right one for those. But they are quite nice, but I'd say just too hard. Now, got the two chocolate offerings here. Now, there's loads of chocolate biscuits out there. You can get chocolate covered all sorts, really, as I've mentioned before. And these are the classic. You get loads of different types of digestive as well, and Hobnob is one of them as well coming up. But first one's chocolate digestive. So you can get dark chocolate digestives. You can get fully coated digestives now, where it's just all covered in chocolate. You get different flavours of the chocolate as well. But this is the classic chocolate digestive, the classic one. You imagine it's got the addition of chocolate. It's going to be almost guaranteed to be better than the regular digestive. That's a given, really. The chocolate's not unpleasant. It's only a thin layer of chocolate, though. Don't know, it's okay. It's nice and regular digestive. The chocolate's all right. I think it's just the fact that they're actually smaller than the regular digestives as well, which is quite frustrating. So the regular digestives are quite big. They're not massive, but there's I don't know if they're quite that big, but they feel quite big. But the red chocolate ones are actually smaller, and it's a crime really because they're not. You get about the same number, but they're smaller. I don't know why they're not the same size. It's really annoyed me all the time. It really frustrates me. I don't know why that is. I'll say they might be, in these days, who knows, maybe they've shrunk the digestives to be the same size. Could well have done, but I don't think they have. They're okay, really. There's definitely a place for them. Chocolate addition on a biscuit is always a good thing, pretty much. I don't think there's ever an instance where adding chocolate to a biscuit has ever been a detrimental thing. In this case, it's no exception. This is really nice. But, not amazing. You'd think it'd be better than it is. They're not too bad, though. Good for dunking, as I say, same reasons for digestives. Of course, you've got the meltage of the chocolate now, and you can get different flavours. I'm just reviewing the base one here, the milk chocolate one, not any of the special editions or dark chocolate or anything like that, or the fully coated one. They are nice. I think they're not a million miles ahead of the basic. It's clearly going. It's not an S rank basically. These are not S ones. I think it'd be a bit too unfair to say they're a B, and I think they are nice actually. I think the problem is with these is you're expecting more from them, and that's the problem with you. They're a bit underwhelming. You think they're going to be really, really nice, and they're just not as good as they should be, being a chocolate covered biscuit. But of course, the digestive base is a bit of an average biscuit, as you know, or maybe even below average, really. And that's probably why, really. But they are nice. They're just not as good as you'd think they would be. And it goes with all the limited edition ones as well. They just don't quite, they're never quite as good as you'd think they'd be. Some of them, I think they've done a caramel one which had a bit more substance to it, which was pretty good. Had a bit more of a chew to it, a bit of a depth to it. And that one probably was a bit more like you'd expect to an extent. It depends on, let's say, there's different variants and stuff. But yeah, generally those, you know, as I said, those were the actual caramel in the biscuit, you know, made it really chewy and had substance to it. But these ones are nice. I think I would say an A. I think it's not a massively high A. I don't think it's close to being in the S rank, to be honest with you. But still very nice. Enjoyed them a lot. Yeah. Let's say they're just underwhelming. They're nice, but they somehow are underwhelming, as in you're expecting something a lot better. Really are. Yeah. But speaking of a lot better, we've got the chocolate hobnobs now, yeah. So let's say there are variants of this one. Yeah, they've done some limited edition flavours recently. Generally, it's milk chocolate and dark chocolate, but as I say, there are some variants. There is even a chocolate chip one, which was pretty terrible. Actually, I think I did a review in the early days of the channel where I had 3 or 4 different flavours of hobnob, and the chocolate chip ones were just pretty terrible. Actually, I don't know what it was. They just totally didn't taste as nice as the regular ones. They're just really bizarre. Anyway, we'll ignore those. I think they've disappeared now, and thank goodness they weren't very nice. But these ones, yeah, if you ask a lot of people what their favourite biscuit is, the chocolate hobnob will be the one. I mean, it's one of those. I remember we did unofficial survey at work asking people what their favourite. I think there's that one guy I mentioned before, like Custard Creams, but basically everyone, chocolate hobnob. It is a top tier biscuit. No doubt about it. I mean, I think we know where this is going to go. It's a top tier biscuit. It's a great biscuit. It has that lovely hobnob, sort of oaty foundation base biscuit. Lovely, really nice texture, lovely taste. I'm not sure about the sizing. I was saying that the chocolate digestive is a lot smaller than regular digestive. I feel like the chocolate hobnob is the same size as the regular hobnob, which is, you know, I could be wrong on that one. Apologies if I am. I think it is the same size, but I could be wrong, as I said. But I think they are the same size. I don't really get the impression that they're smaller anyway, as I say, which is pretty distinctive with the digestive. But they're just a great biscuit. The chocolate seems to be, because the OT, because it's, you know, quite knobbly, the OT. There's lots of sort of crevices and things where the chocolate to go in. It just being, well, you know, as I say, you know, it could be quite flat on one side. It could be quite wrong there, but I just feel like the chocolate is thicker as well. It really lends itself well to the hobnob, the chocolate. It really does. It's a lovely biscuit anyway. And with the addition of chocolate, it's on another level. It's a great biscuit, this one. I can't recommend this enough. It's as I say, it is a classic biscuit. There are other biscuits out, as I say. There's the fully coated hobnob. There's all these other chocolate ones, dark chocolate gingers and things. These are the classic ones, as I say. It's a classic biscuit, you know, and by which I mean, you know, probably classic with a big C and a little c, you know, both ways of saying it really. But it's a sort of, you know, a bit more of an old school biscuit, you know, as I say. And there's lots of newer ones or newfangled ones or complicated ones that, you know, may be quite old themselves, but there's just a range of biscuits that are classic ones, and that's what we're dealing with here. And the hobnob is kind of is basically a classic biscuit, really, in every sense of the word. It's a great biscuit. Great for dunking as well, tea and coffee, everything. It's just perfect. It's pretty much a perfect biscuit. I thought that the fully coated one would be taking it to an even further level, but to be honest with you, I think it might just be, I don't know. It was nice. It was nice. I definitely wasn't complaining, but I think the regular hobnob is just spot on. It's just perfectly proportioned, really nice, really tasty. Works well in almost any situation. Yeah, a great biscuit. Top tier, S for sure. Wonderful biscuit. Wonderful biscuit. It's very, very far ahead of the other biscuits, really. I would say it's really far ahead. There's a gulf really between this and all the rest of them for sure. It's almost 2 ranks ahead, really, not just one. It's a great biscuit, but as I say, we could, you know, go into that detail with other ones. As I say, there's probably partitions in the A rank and stuff like that. So we'll keep it basic, but it is that good of a biscuit. It's definitely really, really top tier. Great biscuit. Well, guys, that brings us to the end of this Classic UK Biscuits tier maker premieres. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think as well. I might have tried to do some fancy things like some polls to see what you think and stuff like that. Maybe you agree with me or not. I'm not sure quite how to do it. You can do, I think, a maximum of 4 or 5 choices in the polls in the chat, so it might be difficult to, you know, I'd say throw all of them in there, but I might throw one or two in there. See what maybe maybe we'll have already done it, I'm sure, and be a bit daft to it at the end. But yeah, let me know what you think if you agree with all this. I'm sure you have been doing. But if you're watching this after the event, after the premiere, yeah, let me know. Leave a comment. Let me know. It'd be great to hear from you. Really well. If you're watching it live as well, leave a comment as well. It's great to hear from you still. But yeah, I'm sure I've enjoyed your comments in the chat. I'm sure it's been great to chat to. Always is. But yeah, as I say, let me know what you think. In the top right corner, either previously or now or both. Well, I don't think you can put it in twice, but at some point I would have put yeah, in the top right corner. I think it's this corner. Yeah, up here somewhere. Yes, probably a bit over my face. Yeah, there would have been a link to a playlist of all my other tier makers as well. So check those out. Hopefully you enjoy those as well. I enjoy making these. I hope you enjoy watching them. Fingers crossed you do. Let me know. Yeah, leave a like and a comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah, thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great evening. Bye for now. See ya. Or morning, depending on when you're watching it. Or afternoon. See you later. Bye.